So we wanted to do a video covering the success factors for EVs in South Africa. If you've done some of your own research, you might think these factors are the number of charge stations available, or the drive range of the vehicles, or the fact that it's physically impossible to lick your own elbow. Although all are true, none of these are the reasons for the sluggish growth of EVs in South Africa when compared to the rest of the world. If you want to know the answer to these questions and why electric vehicles could make a huge difference to South Africa as well as you, then stop trying to lick your elbow and keep watching. So putting aside the technological differences between electric vehicles and petrol cars, many countries around the world have looked at the big picture and seen the huge benefits of EVs to their country, and they've changed their government policies accordingly. It's a rather dry subject, but it is the key aspect, which is government policy that has spurred on EVs, increasing sales, as well as the investment into the supporting infrastructure. I know you might be thinking, oh crap, government policies pertaining to electric vehicles is the least of our worries right now. But hang in there, as this could be something we could get right. Not that our policies need to match those of other countries, but let's start this conversation by having a look at a few examples of what people are doing overseas.
In the USA, they have large subsidies for consumers to buy EVs. In the UK, they've dropped import duties, they've waived inner city congestion charges, and they've reduced vehicle taxes for EVs. In Norway, all electric vehicles and vans are exempt from all non-recurring vehicle fees, including the 25% on VAT, making electric car prices much more competitive with conventional cars. Also, all electric cars can park and use the public lanes
for free. Yeah.
In China, they provide heavy subsidies both to manufacturers and to the consumers, and they've grown a million car a year market, EV car a year market from that. So why are they doing all of this?
We will discuss this in detail in a moment, but first let's have a quick look at where we stand currently with our government policy towards battery and electric vehicles here in South Africa. I know it's not exciting stuff.
Riveting.
As dry as a peanut butter sandwich, but it is important to know. Last year, the Department of Transport did a development of a green transport strategy, and this is for 2018 to 2050. Long amount of time.
Very long time.
And it's aimed at promoting cleaner transport in South Africa. This policy sort of outlines the efforts to contribute to a reduction of emissions in the transport sector. So let's have a quick look at this. Let's see what this looks like, and we're going to go over
Even the 250 period just feels like it's a kicking a can down the road type of thing, isn't it?
Quite possibly,
let's have a proper look
at least
at
they're
it.
trying. Let's have a look.
Okay. So let's have a look at our green transport strategy.
We are looking at it here, and this is actually the summary page.
That is the summary page of it there. So it says that 10.8% of all emissions in the country are done by transport, which is fairly low compared to other countries, but this is probably due to the fact that a lot of our energy is still coming from coal.
So it's not really that it's low, it's just that we are emitting a lot of...
We're a big emitter
of carbon through coal.
Through coal.
Yeah, so the percentage for cars is
correct.
Low because of that,
but now this focuses primarily on the transportation side of it and says that by 2050, the GMN commissions are committed to reducing that by 5%. And what I'm hoping is that they mean 5% of the 10.8%, which would be 40% of our emissions being reduced.
For the cars.
For transportation.
Only
cars.
Yeah.
Though this sounds, like at least some progress. Let's see how this compares to Australia, our rugby partners.
I wouldn't say it's ambitious.
No.
And I think that's particularly true when we do look here at Australia.
What we could see here is the KPMG report from Australia. What could the future of transportation and mobility look like in 2046 as a case study? Automated and automated and zero-emission vehicles technologies have the potential to be the biggest transformative inventory since the arrival of the car itself. They are hoping for an 100% uptake of autonomous and electric vehicles by 2046, which is a very similar time frame. So not only are they reducing their emissions to essentially zero
from cars,
but they see it as autonomous as well. I mean, they're not even looking at driving their cars anymore. Their cars will be driving them. So
I think let's not focus too much on Australia, because the objective here is to look at what we're doing here in South Africa. So another key document.
Transportation policy, is that right?
Yes, this is Rob Davies. Let's just get across to that. And this is
Automotive Master Plan and extension of the Automotive Production and Development Program, which has done very well for South Africa, hasn't it, in the past? Yeah,
absolutely. We've done very well out of manufacturing and assembly, whether that's been BMW or Mercedes-Benz or Nissan, but the focus has purely been on combustion.
Just looking at that number one point, to achieve a 1% of global vehicle productions by 2030, okay? Interesting that we don't yet have any plants in South Africa producing EVs. If you look at what the goals are for other countries, where they are by 2030 not producing any more combustion engine vehicles, if we may have 100% of the combustion engine market by that point.
Which is a problem, because
it is a problem.
The market for those vehicles is diminishing, whereas the market for EVs is growing.
And so this plan really talks about, doesn't mention the word EV in it at all, does it? Did you find it anywhere in there?
No, well, that's really the point we wanted to make, is it's not something they've taken into consideration at all, which when we compare this to the rest of the world, that does look like it's a problem. But I think then let's have a look at some of those recent articles we wanted to discuss. And that's really what some of the car manufacturers here in South Africa are doing themselves.
That's correct. There's a great Bloomberg article that came out. What was the date of this article?
This was August,
it was August the 12th, so it's very recent.
Couple of days ago
Nissan BMW in talks to pull South Africa into the car era. So it's not, our government policy isn't pulling us in, the car manufacturers are having to pull us in. Okay. And basically what they're asking here for is a 23% drop in import duties.
That's essentially dropping the import duties.
Absolutely, but to spur the adoption of these electric vehicles, which would help spur the charging infrastructure, which would get the mindset here changed as to what transportation can look like. And essentially, ultimately, we could be assembling EVs and retooling some of those plants up in East London and PE.
For a growing market.
And we need to get onto this quickly if we're going to sustain that manufacturing base that we have.
And it doesn't actually stop there, because then they actually published another article in terms
of... This was a very interesting article on Bloomberg. I saw that. So this other article that also came out on Bloomberg around the same time, I think it was the 13th of August, platinum being a key export for our country. Amplats wants to develop a battery using platinum group's metal as electric vehicles pose a threat to the key auto-catalytic market. Now, these catalytic converters are used to reduce emissions currently, but once they go EV, there's no need for a catalytic converter.
So it puts the whole market at risk.
Absolutely.
And unless we sort of take this seriously and start to embrace EVs and look at all the opportunities, which is really what Amplat is doing, realizing that to a large extent platinum can replace the cobalt and nickel that's used in the batteries.
Let's hope they can come up with something that really works.
Creating a massive market for themselves.
It would be a massive market, but I mean, they need to try, at least they need to get going.
I think we can steer away from this, because we really want to have a look at what the benefits are to South Africa, also
potential
directly,
benefits,
but also us as an individual. And I think that's covered so nicely by that engineering news.
I read that article. Amazing article, that.
Fantastic article.
Do we have it?
We've got it. So let's move across to that quickly. We don't necessarily need to look at it to the same extent that we're looking at these articles. But let's at least talk about it.
We provide the link for that in the link below. You can click it to see the full article.
Well, what Dr. Bischoff-Neems explains is that South Africa sees EVs as much as a threat as they do an opportunity. This is reflected by our trade and fiscal policy, which remains heavily geared towards internal combustion cars, with a heftier import duty on EVs.
The 23% that we talked about earlier, and the policy we talked about earlier.
Exactly. This is an outdated policy with a misplaced attachment to the 40% fuel levy tax from every cent spent at the pump. What Dr. Bischoff explains in this Engineering News article is that the policy for SA is a mistake. This policy is a mistake. Since the Treasury imports the bulk of its liquid fuel, which it pays for in US dollars.
So we're selling rands to buy dollars, and we're importing something. The money's going offshore.
So in 2018,
Yeah.
this was as much as 184 billion rand.
Wow.
Now, since the fuel for the battery electric vehicles is always domestic, whether coal, nuclear or renewable, replacing ICE cars with EVs would dramatically improve our trade imbalance.
And the 184 billion rand would go towards
Yeah.
Eskom.
So we wouldn't be spending the 184 billion rand to make 40% taxable revenue off it, which is the equivalent, and again I quote Engineering News, spending money on a credit card in the hope of getting rich off the e-bucks.
It's just a ridiculous policy, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So in conclusion, provided that we get our government policies aligned with a incentivized EV policy, essentially, which encourages the uptake of EVs and the manufacturing of EVs within this country, the benefits to this country could be a strengthening of the rand, as we saw, as the money doesn't have to go offshore to buy fuel to energize our combustion engine cars. We can rather produce that energy locally, then money can stay onshore.
And we're creating jobs in the process.
We'd be creating jobs in the process. We can, some of that revenue can go towards solar and wind as well. So those are upskilling some of our labor as well.
And those sort of technologies are well within the skill sets of the people that we have here.
As well, it will strengthen the rand because the money's not leaving the country as much. It also protects our manufacturing base by us incentivizing them to retool some of those factories to assemble EVs in this country.
So our tools and our skills don't become outdated for technologies that are becoming obsolete.
That's correct. So, in conclusion, it seems like government really needs to look at this and really needs to take a new view on this based on that, because it has real potential to address some of the biggest issues that we have in this country. Some really of the really biggest issues
Which
that
is
we
cash
have.
flow.
Which is
And
cash flow.
manufacturing.
Cash flow.
And jobs.
And jobs.
If you think we've left anything out, please let us know. We really enjoy reading any.
And if you disagree with us, as well.
Yeah, of course. So that's it for now, and we look forward to seeing, or not seeing you, because we can't see you, but perhaps you look forward to seeing us in the next episode.
Thank you very much for watching. Bye.
Bye.